most behavior is habitual, and they say the chains of habit are too light to be felt until they're too heavy to be broken. And there's no question about it. I see people with these self-destructive behavior patterns at my age or even 10 or 20 years younger, and they really are entrapped by them.
Most of us don't manage to save as much as we'd like to at the end of every month. Unfortunately, we only have a limited amount of time in every given day, so it's normal for things to get left behind. But savings aren't negotiable if you want to save a lot or finally be financially free. The hard part is, can you manage writing a budget, tracking your expenses, making a list for shopping, and cooking food at home every single day while working a day job? The famous Warren Buffett can, I can, and you can as well. Number 1. Try to save less. You may think I'm crazy for saying this, but hear me out. Something I've really struggled with is saving money. When I first started out, I was trying to save $100+ every single month. What ended up happening is not only did I fail to save $100, but I ended up spending even more than usual. I couldn't help to think, what is going on? How am I supposed to get over this issue? The answer was really quite simple. My expectations were just too high. Once I realized this problem, I decided to change my approach to saving. Instead of trying to save $100 a month, I dropped that number to a measly $10. To most of you, this probably seems really pointless, but let's look at the numbers. If I save $10 a month for 10 years, then I'd only have saved $1,200. That's a really sad amount, but there's something important to realize here. The thing is that I actually managed to save $10, and not only that, but I ended up saving $50. So what changed? Because I lowered my expectations by making a goal so easy to accomplish, I was able to follow through and beyond. With that success under my belt, I thought about what other areas of my life could I apply mini habits. Number 2, invest in yourself.
I just read and read and read. I probably read 5 to 6 hours a day. I don't read as fast now as when I was younger, but I read 5 daily newspapers. I read a fair number of magazines. I read 10Ks, I read annual reports, and I read a lot of other things too. So I've always enjoyed reading. I love reading biographies, for example.
If you didn't know before, Warren Buffett is an expert at making habits stick, and this is just one of the amazing feats he accomplishes every day. He reads an insane amount of 5 to 6 hours a day. Most of you would probably be happy to just read 30 minutes a day. It's becoming more and more common to realize that reading is one of the best ways to invest in yourself, both to make more money and to just generally be a happier person. In our generation, we also have the privilege to take online courses, attend webinars and seminars, and essentially learn about anything you could ever want, both easily and for a good price. Here's the problem though. If it's not mandatory to read or study, the chances of you doing it drop significantly. What to do then? Well, the way I started to read consistently is to give myself an easy goal of just reading 1 page per day. Yeah, most books at this rate would take a full year to read since they hover around 365 pages, but what's better, finishing a book slowly or not reading at all? The funny thing is that you may set yourself up to only read 1 page, but it often happens that you read much more than 1 page. I always ended up reading at least 10 to 20 pages in one shot when I only planned to read 1. If you're trying to get through a course, then just aim to watch 1 minute of the course material videos or read 1 paragraph of a text. As you get more consistent, you'll find yourself reading and studying for longer periods of time, and maybe even building up to reading at Warren Buffett's level. Number 3, take 1 shorter shower a week. Any utility bill in the house is one of the first places people look to save money. It was certainly the first place I looked since so much of our bills revolve around these things. At this point, I couldn't figure out how to approach lowering payments since it required a lot of work and a tough process that I just wasn't capable of. I'm sure many of you struggle with that too. For example, I don't have time to hang dry my clothes or to change my thermostat. I also couldn't afford to change it to a smart thermostat, so everything just felt overwhelming. However, I found a way that I could at least kickstart me into saving money. I started thinking that a way I could save money was on my showers. I felt like they were a little long, and any little bit of savings helped. I decided to make it easy on myself by lowering my shower length by 1 minute. This is an extremely short time, But as I got better and better at it, I noticed that I dropped my shower time slowly to 3 minutes, which really adds up in the long run. Not only that, but this low expectation mini frugal habit started bleeding into other parts of my life regarding utility bills. One of these ways was to hang dry only one item of clothing. Funnily enough, every time I did this, I managed to hang dry all my clothes. I thought to myself since I started, well, I may as well finish. This leads me to a major revelation I had. Number 4. Avoid impulse purchases. Remember that law in physics where objects that stay at rest tend to stay at rest, and objects that are in motion tend to stay in motion? Well, that's what I was doing with hang drying my clothes. But I also use this rule to avoid impulse purchases. Before I reveal how I did this, I want to share something. If you buy things you do not need, soon you will have to sell things you need. This is a quote from Warren Buffett that inspired this approach that I'm going to share with you. You've heard of using time filters to avoid impulse spending, but the problem with that though is that you're still thinking about buying the item. Unfortunately, it can still lead to impulse purchases. Since spending is a very strong habit for most of you, considering that you probably spend on something almost every single day, it's not something that you can just expect to stop waiting. It's better to nip it in the bud, meaning cut it off ASAP. Now, you're probably not shopping or spending on anything, right? If we use the physics law I mentioned earlier, if we aren't currently spending, it's easy to stay that way if we don't change anything. So the way I stopped my impulsive purchases was just to be lazy. In other words, if I wasn't spending, I would just keep it that way and avoid using any apps that may cause me to do so. This is a very similar tactic that Buffett uses for investments. He only goes for companies that he needs in his portfolio, but otherwise, he just sits still and doesn't move. Number 5. Use cash once a week.
What's in your wallet right now?
I'd say about probably $400 or $500.
$400 or $500
Something like that,
in
yeah.
cash.
Yeah,
Is that what you're always carrying?
I generally carry something like that.
Yeah, I know. Warren Buffett carries an incredible amount of cash in his wallet. I know I'd never need to keep this much money in my wallet, and neither do you. But there's an important lesson here. You've probably heard that using cash is more efficient than using a credit card, but that it can also save you money. One of the reasons is that it psychologically impacts you, because you have to physically let go of something you own, which makes you less likely to give it up. However, the convenience of using credit or even a debit card usually overpowers using cash. So what can you do to spend less money and use cash more? You have to make it easy on yourself. It's not the easiest to go out and take cash almost every day or every week for every purchase, but it's a lot easier to take out cash once and use it throughout the month. Yes, I'm saying to make it easier by using cash to buy something once a week. This can be anything like groceries or gas. I personally used it for gas and really helped lower my desire to spend, and it's actually made me much more conscious of what I spend on gas. It's lowered the amount I spend on gas by about 5% monthly, which is huge since I drive a lot. Number 6. Eat one meal at home.
$3.17 is a bacon, egg, and cheese biscuit, but the market's down this morning, so I think I'll pass up the $3.17 and go with the $2.95.
Okay. I know that eating McDonald's is not eating at home, but focus on this instead. Buffett said that he went with the cheaper meal because the market was down that day. What does this tell us? It tells me that he's very disciplined and will only spend more if he has the money to back it up, but also that all of his meals are extremely cheap. While most people won't go out and eat McDonald's because they don't like it or for health reasons, there's a mini habit hiding here in plain sight. One of the biggest expenses people have is food, specifically takeout. The average American spends about $300 per month on it alone. That's a massive number, and it's one of the reasons why I was losing money every month myself. The way I looked at it is like this. I love to eat food, and I love this one restaurant specifically. Since my finances were struggling, I decided to make it easy for myself and cook one really simple meal at home instead of getting takeout. And by simple, I mean boiled spaghetti. I got store-bought sauce and cheap ground beef. It wasn't the most amazing meal, but I ended up saving about $15 every week. You don't have to go crazy and cut off every takeout meal, but start with a mini habit of reducing the amount you eat to a level that it's almost too easy not to do. Number 7. Track your expenses. This is an old frugal living tip, but it's one that's notoriously hard to keep up with since you need to be organized. It's one that I can tell you I still struggle with, but I found something that works really well. To start with, I knew that I needed to track my expenses so I could finally figure out how to save more money. The way I did this was this. I started to take pictures of my receipts or bank statements daily instead of trying to write them all out every day. I needed to make it as easy as possible, and this was by far the best way for me. Instead of thinking about how I had to track my expenses, all I said to myself was that I had to take a picture of my receipt. When I did this, I often looked over my purchases and ended up saving the amount as a result. One step at a time is what allowed me to find success, and it's what will allow you to find it as well. Number 8. Avoid one credit card purchase.
You can't make progress in your financial life going around borrowing money at 18 or 20%.
You know that credit card debt is some of the worst debt, but to stop using it cold turkey and pay off your debt can sometimes feel a lot worse than the debt at the moment. How can you stop this financially unhealthy behavior, but still be happy throughout it all? This dilemma sparked something in me as I struggled to stop using my credit card. I knew Warren Buffett was right, so I started with this frugal mini habit. I avoided one single credit card purchase every single month. When I wanted to reach for it to pay my grocery bill or for something on Amazon, I'd simply reach for my debit instead. I always made it a simple task, and sometimes I didn't fall through and I used it. But I always found one day where I wouldn't use my credit card. It's a small win, but as I got more consistent with not using my credit card at least once a week, I stopped using it more frequently. As of right now, I only use my credit card about once a month. What a change, and I'm sure you can make the same change today.